This is the Reading Instruction Show. I am your host, as always, Dr. Andy Johnson. Today we're talking about the Mississippi Miracle. It's a miracle. But first of all, let me start with saying that I have miraculous powers. With my miraculous powers, I can make the children in Mississippi taller. Yes, I can. And here's how I'll go about it. First, you flunk all the kids, all the short kids in third grade. So they stay in third grade and all the taller kids go to fourth grade. So when they're tested in fourth grade, they don't have any more short kids. So all the fourth graders are taller. And then when they test those third graders, well, they all had a chance to grow a year, so the third graders would also be taller. It's a miracle. It is a Mississippi miracle. Now notice, 2013, that's when legislation passed, and that's when this Mississippi miracle started. But here we see various years, 2019, and the years in which the states passed science of reading legislation. 2021, 2023, we see a whole bunch of them. So we can guess by 26, 27, and 28, we're going to see miracles happening all over the place because all our reading problems are fixed. Yes? Yes. Now, in 2023, we had a state senator here in Mississippi, Senator Chamberlain, and he approved this educational bill that was going to reverse Minnesota's declining reading scores. Who could argue with something like that? And this is what his bill said. Letters, it's a training program with a remarkable track record, not just a normal track record, but a remarkable track record. And states like Mississippi are outperforming Minnesota in reading score increases. Oh, horror upon horrors that a state like Mississippi should be outperforming Minnesota, due in large part to their use of letters. Imagine that he isolated the variable and he decided that letters was the cause of this miracle. So he decided that we needed to spend $30 million to provide all teachers with letters program training. Very good for him. But here's the thing. Reading score increases. He was looking at gain scores, and this is done quite a bit, by the way. People who don't understand reading test scores, they look at gain scores and they go, Louisiana, their gain scores are bigger than these. Oh, horror upon horrors. Alabama and Louisiana is doing better than Oklahoma, Maine, Delaware, and Virginia. Let's unpack that. The magic of gain scores. Here's why it is silly to use gain scores as a comparison. If you're a low starter and gain a little bit, you're going to have a larger gain score than if you're a high starter and you have just a slight fluctuation. Here's the low starter with a gain score of 20 and the high starter with a normal fluctuation. It wouldn't even be statistically significant. And using this thinking of Senator Richard Chamberlain and others, you'd go, look at that. This low starter is outperforming. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. By the way, I was interviewed by John Stossel. You'd think a guy with all this years of television experience would understand just some of the basics, but he slapped this graphic up in front of me. That was his gotcha moment to show all these gain scores. Look at this, he said. Mississippi gain scores. And I tried to explain to them that you don't use gain scores to make comparisons between one thing or the other. And my explanation, of course, made it on the cutting room floor, ended up on the cutting room floor. but you don't use gain scores to make comparisons. And this is why I say journalists are welcome into our academic discussion. But for God's sakes, John Stossel and Chris Papps and others, get a little information. You don't get a free pass on ignorance. Get some information. Now, having numbers does make a thing seem real and more accurate, but it's not. It just means there's numbers on it. Minnesota Department of Education, they bought into this whole thing. Language Essentials, Letters is a rigorous professional development program appropriate for teachers at all tiers. This is a public thing promoting this private for-profit entities. Letters trains teachers to provide explicit, systematic, and sequential instruction. Okay, so they're a shill for Lexia learning, apparently. And look at numbers. Ooh, numbers. Look at the numbers. We can see numbers. Yes, it must be real. They have numbers. And look at this. Fancy charts and graphs. Letters, implementation, significant. Wow, how can you possibly argue with that graph? And of course, that's put out by Voyager Sopris Learning, which is part of Lexia Cambium Learning. They are a for-profit entity. And here we are on a Minnesota Department of Education spewing forth this for-profit garbage. What's wrong with you, Minnesota Department of Ed? Do you not know any better, or do you not have any ethics? Fancy charts. Senator Chamberlain was wrong. Data is different from research. He had some data out there, but the data was conveniently inaccurate. Data has no context. It has no peer review, and data is different from research. Test scores are going down, he said. Well, that wasn't quite true, but he claimed to identify the variable, and it was because teachers didn't know the right thing, and he identified the solution. Letters training. That is going to be the solution, and Minnesota is going to have a gosh darn miracle, just like Mississippi. Of course they are. But when we're looking at Letters or Orton Gillingham or any other thing, science of reading people who claim to embrace scientific principles, when we look at Letters, the three questions you must ask: is there research to show that Letters professional development improves a student's reading achievement? That is, teachers who have this Letters knowledge in their head from taking that professional development training, do their students have improved their reading achievement? Does it improve teachers' ability to teach reading? And is Letters professional development more effective when compared to something similar? These are the three research questions we must ask of anything that claims to be research-based. They should not get a free pass. But here in Minnesota, as well as elsewhere, these for-profit entities are getting a free pass, and I don't understand why. Orton Gillingham, Letters, Wilson Reading. Does it improve students' reading achievement? Yes or no? Is there research to support that? Does it improve teachers' ability to teach reading? Is there research to support that? And most important, when compared to other similar things, is it more effective? Letters, when compared to other teacher professional development, is it more effective? Well, let's look at the scores from the state of Minnesota, which Senator Chamberlain claimed to be going down. Well, actually, Senator Chamberlain, when you compare Minnesota's reading scores, this is fourth grade, over time, 98 to 19, Minnesota scores have consistently been above the national average. Yes, there's natural fluctuations as we would expect, but they're slightly above where they were in 1998. Eighth grade, same thing. Natural fluctuations, but we are above the national average. Comparing Minnesota to Mississippi, well, Senator Chamberlain, you were wrong. Gain scores are illusions. You can't use that as comparison because Minnesota has always scored above Mississippi. These are fourth grade scores. These are eighth grade scores. They have always scored above Mississippi. Here's Mississippi's scores. This is the national average. They are below the average. And here you see the miracle happening in 2013, and we'll unpack that. The miracle, it is a miracle, a miracle. We're going to unpack that. And here's eighth grade, and you see all of a sudden the miracle seems to have gone away. All right. Based on this article, I did some exploring, and here's what's happened. Before 2013, you had third grade test takers, and remember the NAEP takes tests in fourth and eighth grade. That's when they take these tests. Before 2013, the high test takers in third grade, medium and low test takers, they all went to fourth grade, and the average results were 209. That's before 2013. But then came the miracle, the letters miracle, the miracle cure. And what they did, they started flunking all the low test takers. So by the time they took the test, they flunked the third grade low test takers. So only the medium and high test takers went to fourth grade to take the test. So miracle upon miracles, now the average test scores were 2014. It is a miracle. Senator Chamberlain and others determined the cause of that miracle to be letters professional development, which costs lots and lots of money. But the causal factor was probably more likely the fact that they flunked all the low test takers, so the fourth grade testing pool didn't have those low test takers, and the next year those third grade low test takers in fourth grade got to take the test again. It is a miracle, a Mississippi miracle. However, those same fourth grade students, after 4 years, they had to take that test again, and that miracle kind of went away. It went away. It was not a miracle. Oh dear, not a miracle at all. This has been the Reading Instruction Show, and I'm sorry I had to throw water on the Mississippi miracle. It wasn't a miracle at all.